Hello, Austin. Do you want to play a game? This is your wife.
Oh.
If you want to survive, you must do the following things. Do laundry.
No.
Wash dishes.
Don't make me
Clean
do
the living
this.
room. For
Please
once
don't make
in your
me do
life,
this. Not
pick
again.
up your underwear.
Don't make me do it again. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. The 9th entry in the Saw franchise is here, and today we are talking Spiral. Spoiler-free, of course. Get in that comment section. Let me know if you're excited. Let's do it. So, a criminal mastermind unleashes a twisted form of justice in Spiral, the terrifying new chapter from the Book of Saw. This is directed by Derek Bozeman, who's returning to the Saw franchise, starring Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, and a fairly competent cast. So I was excited about this for a few reasons. Seeing Chris Rock in this genre, returning to this world. I've been binging all of Saw movies. I plan on doing a tier list this weekend, and let me tell you, I was so pumped to go back and revisit, even though this is the first one, even past Jigsaw, the first one that is taking a completely different route and almost going away from what you know, even though we're really thrown right back into the Saw world in the opening scene, one in which they've released online, where we get a more simplistic trap, a more simplistic game. The violence and gore is there. It keeps all of the things that we love about the franchise with that R rating, but it does do a good job of throwing us back into this world. Now, the film itself is constructed very differently. It's more of like this CSI Criminal Minds type situation mixed with what we know and love from Saw, as opposed to just a Saw film. Now, inevitably, we're going to get into that third act, and we're going to hit on those tropes, right? But in this case, it's more about the journey with our characters, and Chris Rock's character, specifically Detective Zeke. And there are a few things about his relationships that stuck out right off the bat, right? You have that with his father, Marcus. They don't quite get along maybe like they used to. There's a bit of tension there, but you realize kind of what went down in the past because we do get these flashback scenes all throughout the film. And then you have everyone surrounding him, all of his fellow officers, and there's just a lot of corruption at this place, right? Your detectives, your officers, people making decisions, very selfish and personal decisions. And we'll go back and we'll revisit these scenes, and you just start to realize that there aren't very many good people that work around Chris Rock's character of Zeke, and you can see why he's just so angry and flustered all the time. We start out, and he's kind of bringing out some jokes. We get the Chris Rock that we love, but as the movie progresses and he starts receiving these clues as to the mystery of sorts, it gets much more focused, much more serious, and he is taking no nonsense. And I personally really enjoyed that aspect of the film. Something else I enjoyed, of course, are the games that we are playing spread out throughout the film. Now, I do think a lot of people are going to take issue with the new Saw voice. It's much more of this computer-generated voice. And at first, I'm like, man, I miss John Kramer. I really do. But as it progressed, I'm like, you know what? It is kind of creepy. So I started to enjoy it the more that I heard it. And then once you actually get into what's happening and you start to unravel this mystery, and I will admit, it was a bit predictable at a point, right? We start getting into that third act, and they almost begin to reveal themselves before actually revealing themselves. And I said, oh, man, I kind of wanted to figure this out at the last second, but I'm starting to figure it out now. And I was right. And since we're on the topic of things that I didn't thoroughly enjoy, we do get this massive exposition dump in the first act. And I mean right off the bat, we're like, 12 years, I got a medal, there's a heat wave with blackouts, let's tell you everything going on around the city, let's talk about my father really quick, Marcus, your father was important, he did this, this, and this, and all of that comes from like 2 conversations. And I'm like, well, I guess we know everything we need to know. I mean, we could have figured it out as we progress, so the script itself maybe needed a little bit of work, but I want to scale back super quick, and I want to ask you guys a question. Why are we watching this movie, right? Of course, we want a competent plot and script, and inevitably, there has to be something at the end that makes us sit back and go, ugh, it's a Saw movie. And throughout the franchise, we've had our ups and downs with the endings, and I've kind of scoffed at a lot of them. And then we look at the story itself, and it's trying to do a few things that are different, and I commend that, right? Leaning a little bit into get out territory, trying to ask some questions that don't entirely work in the context of the script. But when we look at the scaled back versions of these traps and these games, we look at what Chris Rock's character has to go through and kind of the upbeat intensity throughout the movie, even though I will say there is less of that than maybe in some of the other Saw films, and there's not, say, a room of people having to go through something this time around. There aren't 2 or 3 concurrent storylines happening. There's really just this one storyline with Zeke, and he keeps encountering these things, and I will admit, even though they're not some of the better traps that we've seen in the franchise, I believe they were extremely entertaining. Let me tell you, I'm very thankful for some of my body parts, because, oh my God. But that's what you want when you're watching a Saw movie, right? We care less about some of these other things, and we care more about that, but it's also the mysteries and the reveals and the intensity, and if we're looking at those things, that's why I may be a bit more positive than other people, because I enjoy myself. It's all about the entertainment value. And yes, I have my criticisms, my nitpicks when it comes to the script and certain things about the plot, but I was still having a pretty good time. I like seeing Chris Rock in this setting, even though maybe he was overacting a bit at times. But I thought that story was interesting. And then you get into these hard R-rated Saw-isms that we know and love, and just returning to this world and this new villainous presence. People thinking, well, it's just a copycat, but no. This individual, there's some pretty interesting things going on here. So at the end of the day, if you're asking Austin, did you enjoy it? I have to say yes. And what is going to the movies all about? Well, it's enjoying yourself and getting out of this Saw movie what you want to get out of it. And I implore you, you're going to look at some of the critical reception. Not everyone's going to love it, but I understand a lot of these nitpicks and criticisms, and the entire Saw franchise has never truly been really appreciated by critics, but that hasn't stopped us before. And I'll tell you what, some of these movies in this franchise I find to be underrated, and we'll have to see what the final results are here, but I may be in that camp with Spiral because, again, I enjoyed myself. So before I give you guys my score, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review and you want to support this video, drop that thumbs up down below, and stay tuned. We have reviews for Army of the Dead and Those Who Wish Me Dead later on today. Spiral may not be everything fans are hoping for, but there is a lot here that this sequel gets right. The mystery is intriguing, the traps are bloody, and the style of the film is interesting. The story itself could have been given more depth, but there is fun to be had. I am going a 64% for Spiral, the Book of Saw. Hey, come back, because we are going to be ranking the Saw films in tier list format this weekend. I cannot wait to do that. And if you go on this channel right now, you're going to find some reviews yesterday for some films that I believe are worth watching, as well as Castlevania. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, reviews later on today, and this weekend we're going to be talking more Saw. All right, you're the best. I'll see you soon.